Welcome to another episode of Badass Unscripted. This topic is an advanced topic, but it's an important one. It's about the moment where desire meets will. And why is this so interesting? I'll give you an example. Earlier this year, so we're now 7.5 months into 2022. And earlier this year, I made some promises. I made some commitments. I had some vision about where I wanted to go and what I wanted to achieve this year. One of them was I was going to bring the Forge to the corporate world. Done. Dusted. The second one was that I was going to have conversations about the future of agility, the real purpose of agility, Agile outside of tech. Done. Now, both of these are always progressing. They're ever evolving, naturally. But the point is, I made a promise that I would start those conversations, that I would launch them, that I was committed to having them, that you would feel the impact, that you would know it was there. I was going to put a done thing in your hands, the listener, the audience, the consumer. And I've done those. Now, those are the promises that I made to you. Let's talk about the promises that I made to me. There are two promises that I struggle with. Number one is fitness. I don't spend the right amount of time. I don't do the right kind of work to get the right kind of results around fitness. Straight up struggle. And the second one is I have a passion since I was a little kid. I wanted to be a great writer of songs, writer of music. I wanted music to be a part of my life. Now I'm doing okay. I've written stuff in the past and some of them are my theme songs. You've heard them. But I want to make real impact. So there's two promises that I made that I was unable to keep to myself. Nobody's watching. So who cares, right? You don't keep a promise to yourself, who cares? I care. These matter to me. These are my biggest, most ambitious goals, dreams, and desires. So I want to introduce you to the concept of the moment when desire meets will. So I struggled for years and years and years with both outcomes. Every day I would write down the goal. I'm going to work out today. I'm going to work out 3 times this week, 5 times this week. I'm going to write songs 3 times this week. And I've had moments where I was able to keep those promises. But the consistent practice is what I want now. So I started making those promises not only at the beginning of this year, but years ago. And I struggle to be consistent with them. However, something changed. Because I'm a continuous student of myself, of the world, of success, I found a technique to hold myself accountable, to make real change, to have the problems, blockers, struggles go away like that. Now, I've done it before, so I know I can do it again. So I've deployed those to those 2 issues, fitness and songwriting. As a result, I now have the beginnings of a consistent practice. This is excellent. This is exactly what I wanted. What changed? It's one thing to desire things. It's one thing to write your goals down every single day. It's quite another to do everything necessary to move towards those goals. They're simply different skills. It is only when your will to achieve the outcome is so great that you will do anything and everything to achieve them that something changes. The rest of the time we spend blocking ourselves. So where do you find the will? It's about making a decision that nothing will get in your way anymore. It's about making a decision that everything that you fear about making that commitment, because usually when we don't keep commitments, there's some aspect of fear involved. So examine, what was it specifically about songwriting or fitness that kept me from keeping my promises? It was the fear that I had of how much work it would be to do it well. And the fear that I had of what if I do it and put the effort in, go through all that pain, only to find out I'm no good at it, that I can't. Those are deep-rooted fears in me. Go back to my childhood, and anything about certain kinds of physical demonstrations of courage or strength wasn't accessible to me when I was a kid, so I learned to be afraid of it. And the same thing, I think this one is possibly more relatable, the fear of failure. What if I do it and I'm no good? Now, identifying the fear is one thing. Even that is not enough. You have to reach a moment where you confront that fear and realize that if you spend energy on anything today, it had better be on something that scares the hell out of you. Here's to share a secret with you. I teach this to people so that they can teach it to others, so that they can have better for themselves. And yet, on those things, those very private things, which you would never see watching the podcast, for example, those were the things that I was afraid of. Those were the things that affected me. Those were the things where I was failing to make movement. So even though I knew what I was afraid of, it wasn't enough to motivate me into change. Then one day you decide, I am the kind of person who makes promises and keeps them. I am the kind of person who can overcome or at least manage my relationship with any fear that I may have. I am the kind of person who, once they decide to do something, does it with excellence. To override my fear of something being hard, something that I can't do, I work out for 10 minutes at a time. I work out with light weights if I'm not feeling it. If I can't complete 10 reps of something, I'll lower the weight or I'll lower the reps. But the point is, at least I have a movement practice now, and I'm comfortable with it. And I found ways to integrate it into my daily schedule so that it's not a big operation. With songwriting, the change was pretty much the same thing. I'll work for 10 or 20 minutes at a time. I'll work with a songwriting coach, and I'll be prepared that all of it will go to the wastebasket. But I got really clear on the goal. The vision of becoming a songwriter and making great impact is one thing, but it's a big thing. In the Forge, we learned to break big things into smaller things. So what was the smaller thing? Was just to have a consistent practice. A consistent practice that generates consistent output. Because if it sucks, now I can get feedback. If it's not good, someone can help me make it better. If I don't lose 10 pounds in a week, that's okay. At least I have the consistency to show up every day, put in the work, and I know that over time, results will come. Once I get over the fear and I get more comfortable and habitual, then I can increase the load. I can increase the time. I can increase the reps. Same thing with songwriting. I start to automate and optimize the things that make the process painful, make it too big. And once I've done that, once I have the consistent practice, now I'm supercharging it. I'm tuning it to make it into something that it was never going to be before, because I was always sitting there and making an excuse. Not today. It's too big, it's too hard, it's too scary. But because I didn't have that communication with myself about what is it that you fear, how can we manage our relationship with that fear, and what is the smallest increment of done that you can execute today that moves you past it? That, my friends, is the moment at which the will and the desire intersect and things happen. Desire is not enough. I hope you enjoyed this one. As always, you can reach out at badassagile.com. Find me on Twitter at badass_agile. Look for me on Instagram at badassagile. Don't forget to check out the YouTube. You see the links down below here. And please join me in the Forge, won't you? It's been a pleasure to speak to you today. Until next time, stay badass.